Nerd Skool is a member of the Queen City Podcast Network.
Hey, fellows. It's the first night of 11 of the season.
Nerds roll. Nerds roll.
Oh, my glasses are broken. And this will begin season 2 of Nerd Skool.
Welcome back to season 2, Nerd High. Glad to have you.
It's gonna be crazy stunts. We're gonna there's gonna be stunts.
Joe's gonna
fireworks.
bring more penis jokes.
There's a lot of penis stuff.
I am a super nerd.
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
Starring Andy,
Star Spangled Band with a plan.
Maybe I'll try to do a cartwheel.
TBJ.
Welcome. Congratulations. You did dirt. Ta-da. I ain't got no shame. All my exes can tune in. We can have an episode where I compare them to all the Marvel villains. We can do that.
Artstar.
I don't love Wiener.
I'm just trying to make money.
Lord Artemis Prime rises.
Yeah, my real name is Joe. Did I ever tell you about the time I hung out with DMC at Mertz?
The Nerd Skool Podcast.
What's your dog's name?
Sydney.
Oh, that's not bad.
Sydney Poitier.
Are you judging what my
I've
children
been-
named the dogs?
I've been
10 years
judging
ago?
people. I've been judging people's dogs' name lately because my Andy and I's brother just got a puppy, and he and his family are in that struggle right now. One thing our families go through, Andy probably not so much, but it's a big struggle to agree with your family on the names. And my family never likes my names because I want it to be a silly name. It's got to be a person's name. I absolutely hate it when people name their dogs like Coco or Pepper or all that stuff. And so
That's
his
it,
daughter
right?
wants to name his dog Coco. I'm like, stop it. That's all like cinnamon. Like we got
She's
a dog.
a kid. Kids name dogs ridiculous things.
I know, but they need like, I like when it's like Dale or Pete or something.
So
you know?
judgy, Joe.
You wanted to name your
Joe.
cat Randy Macho Man Savage.
Oh, I wanted to so bad, and she wouldn't let me. But she won by naming it Teddy Bananas. That was a cool name, Teddy Bananas.
Teddy Bananas is a good name.
Is that
Yeah.
the only way you agreed?
Sydney's kind of a cool name. I'm just glad you didn't name it like.
Well, I didn't
Mittens.
name her. The children did, and
Okay, kids are smart then.
Well, we
Yeah.
had trouble when we were kids. We had a little dog that was born without a tail, and I remember struggling to name her because I didn't like any name that anyone else liked.
Yeah.
Like first, it was like a Gertie, I think. I was like, no.
Fanny.
that's-
We're gonna call
I
her
mean-
Fanny.
Yeah, Fanny, because she didn't have a tail. But then I didn't like that at all. I didn't really want to name a dog, but although in
You
retrospect, it would have been funny.
We named her
So-
Minnie.
Yeah.
That was dumb.
And I just liked that better than Fanny. So I was like, let's go with that. She's small. She's a little bitty dog. So we'll call her Minnie. As in
Well,
like
and I just realized recently that our cat that we had that lived in the garage,
Mhm.
she was named after Nixon. Did you know that?
like the
name-
disgraced president.
The president. Yeah. Her name was Nixie, and it was after President Nixon.
Was it?
Interesting choices.
Yeah,
was it
because
really?
I think because our dad was probably a Nixon supporter.
I don't know about that, but
Somebody, I think Mom told us she named it after President Nixon. Like he had that cat when they met. I think.
oh yeah, I didn't know anything. The one time I tried to make friends with Nixie, she drew blood. So I was like, you know what?
She never came out of the garage. She lived in the garage.
Yeah.
That cat said, "Leave me the hell alone."
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
So I did.
You were smart.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's
Speaking of smart, the smartest woman in the galaxy is Barbarella.
Oh God. Joe, I didn't say this officially. Any movie you choose from here on out,
I'm
you
2 for
keep picking
2.
the dumbest crap we watch.
I thought this was like a classic that everyone had seen except for me, and that it's like one of these things that if you can say anything about movie history, you have to know what Barbarella is and speak intelligently, because Gruff on the Gruff and Loud show has referred to Barbarella several different times, only to come to find out that his family owned Barbarella because he lived in an apartment with his sister and his mom, and it was just him and his sister and his mom. And so he grew up with these two feminine role models that like made him watch what they liked, and so like they ingrained Barbarella in his head. I had never even heard of Barbarella until he just offhand mentioned it. And so I thought it was gonna be more feminism than it was like just weird 60s trippy sexuality.
I could see how you'd think that with, you know, it's weirdly persistent that it's for some reason it has endured as a name, as a reference, and plus Jane Fonda's reputation, her political reputation later, probably gave that impression. And I honestly didn't know I didn't know it was based on a comic before you recommended it. And
I think a lot of it, you're right. I think a big chunk comes from who Jane Fonda is as an activist and became later. I think that's a big thing. But
there's no way at the time when they were filming this, they were like, hell yeah, women. Yes. This was more of a dude who is either who was not sober, was sitting around and was like, you know what I'd love to see? You know what I would love to see? Yeah. And then if you got this evil queen who was also sexy, yeah. And then like that's how that script came about. Because there's no way when someone thought of this, they were like, this is gonna be so empowering for female sexuality. No.
Yeah,
I'm guessing a lot of it was taken from the comics. I'm guessing. I don't know if Andy, you looked into that.
I haven't dug too deeply in it. Now I will say there was a like sort of a reboot like last year. Dynamite Comics created like this sort of got like an actual female writer and author named Sarah Hoyt to do kind of a reimagining of Barbarella. So I don't know how that is. I would imagine it has a much more modern sensibility, but it also keeps the cheeky fun of it, I guess. But just reading about the creation of this film, the director Roger Vadim was married to Jane Fonda at the time, and Jane Fonda, and he was apparently not that interested in the script. He was more interested in like the visuals, and he also was apparently drinking the whole time. So you're right, he was not sober.
Look at that.
Drinking, I thought he'd be on drugs, but so he was married. The director was
it's the 60s.
Married to Jane Fonda.
Yeah, and Jane Fonda was not his first choice.
Oh, damn.
There was an actress named Verna Lisi, and then Brigitte Bardot, who was his ex-wife at the time, I guess.
Oh.
Sophia Loren was pregnant, so she couldn't do it.
Oh boy.
So eventually they settled on Jane Fonda. And
here's my thing about Jane Fonda through this movie, which is so weird. So I just saw her host something at the Netflix is a Joke Festival in LA. She and Lily Tomlin were hosting because they have
because they have that show, Grace and Frankie.
Yeah, that show. Do you watch that show, TBJ?
I sure do. I keep watching it in hopes that Dolly Parton will come on so that we can have a full 9 to 5 reunion every season. I'm like, is Dolly on this season? Like, it's funny. I do think the show is funny.
Is it real?
Talk about feminism?
Yeah,
that is women of a certain age coming into themselves, learning to start over, second chapters of their lives, etc. That's feminism. Barbarella, no.
Is it real sexual, Grace and Frankie?
No, but they do touch on, like the first season, they do invent a tool for women to help. But it's for older women whose hands may be arthritic or need help.
So they at the Netflix is a Joke Festival, they had a comedy museum, and they had that tool in a thing that you can look at. So that's what made me think it was sexual. So I think because she hosted that thing, so I just came off of a comedy show where I watched her for 3 hours host an event, and she's an old woman right now. So I got used to her talking as an old woman. I couldn't help but see her as an old woman in this thing where she was young and beautiful and voluptuous and naked, of course, but I felt like she talked like an old lady. So there's this weird thing about,
she's 84. First of all, she's 84. So she's earned her right to age.
She has.
But
she looks fabulous.
The same, like if you look at her face, that is her face still very much. Like there's not a dramatic difference.
Well, she has an age. You're right. I mean, for an 84-year-old, she looks fabulous.
I did notice while watching this that I think this movie would be a lot worse if it wasn't her, because she there's something you could tell there's more to her than this character shows, than this script shows. It's like the way, like, just something about her delivery and how she approached it seemed to give it a bit more, I'm not going to say gravitas. There's none of that in here, but
she probably tried, right? She was like,
yeah,
this is what I have. Let's work with it.
Although I'm reading a report like this, she did not enjoy doing this movie at all because, what was the quote? Like all the reasons you thought you were picking this movie is the reasons that she didn't like it, because it wasn't any of that.
It wasn't those things. Yeah.
I mean, what opening scene? Ring ring, it's the president or the leader of the earth. And
President
she's
of
like,
Earth, yeah.
let me put on some clothes. Why the hell did you answer the video call? Why are you answering FaceTime fully nude? And then the leader's like, it's okay. It's so important that I want to stare at you completely naked to tell you this thing. Like, from the first moment, I was like, all right, I see where we're going. And
Yeah,
I tried to not hate it.
I'm trying to remember. So before we watched it, before I picked it, I was doing some research to see, like, is this a feminist? And I never really saw anybody say like pick strong that one way, but it was arguments. And I think the biggest thing that I found that made me curious to see what this was, the biggest argument for it being feminism, is the portrayal at its time in 1968, having a woman being the sexual aggressor and the sexual and not attaching any feelings to it all. Like, she was like, oh, you want to bang? Okay. And not be like, yeah, you pleased or whatever. But then
I think
she's
like, aggressor.
In retrospect, right? Like, I don't think at the time of it filming that we would have been like,
wait a minute, you can't keep talking and walk away.
Can y'all hear me now?
Oh, here comes
Artstar, ladies and gentlemen.
the Sith Master has joined us because TBJ forgot how microphones work.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
So she's on a podcast and just walks away
because my computer was going to die and it got urgent. I forgot that I hadn't plugged it in, y'all. Please.
I love that you completely kept talking and just left the room.
I know. I walked to the side. I had a moment. Okay.
I felt like that was like basically expressing her opinion of the film. Was like, I'll talk about it, but I'm gonna walk out the door while I'm
gonna mumble down the hallway.
I would have walked out the door while it was showing on my TV. That's what I wish would have happened.
Now, I will say several times, and these guys can vouch for me, on the Marco Polo chain, I did admit this was terrible, and I didn't know if I could get through it. And then I even had to, at one point, I had to like rewind because I was like, I totally have no idea what the hell is happening. Like,
I fell asleep on it a couple of times.
I did doze
matter. You this is one you don't have to nerd out and follow the script
but
about.
There was, I mean, I was interested when I figured out what it was, like that there's this lake of energy, and the liquid energy absorbs evil thoughts and things, and it thrives on evilness. Like, so that part, you probably didn't even get that, right? Because you were like, what the fuck is this?
That was, I think, the explanation from Marcel Marceau,
yes,
the French mime, who like is basically the only famous mime, I would think. Actually had his first speaking role on film, and apparently he had trouble doing that because he's used to doing,
miming,
pretending he's in a box.
I would have never picked him out if it wasn't for Amazon Prime saying who was in that scene.
Yeah. Also, it's worth mentioning the Professor Duran Duran is the reason Duran Duran has their name.
Yes.
And has a song they released. Yeah. And they actually even had a song called Electric Barbarella at one point. Yeah. So that was definitely where Duran Duran got their name.
I kept thinking, like, there's no way this is a coincidence. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, they just dropped
doesn't link
the D's, or maybe the subtitles were wrong. I don't know, but I think it was Durand is the character's name.
It was, and I didn't look into if they dropped the D's because of like copyright issues, but yeah, they did say it's definitely inspired. And then once I watched the whole thing, I was like, of course it's inspired Duran Duran. It's weird as shit, just like that new wave band is kind of odd. Although that Hungry Like the Wolf video, I found very sexy as a preteen.
Well,
Of course you did.
we can leave that be. But yeah, Jane Fonda did not enjoy this. Apparently, like the scenes where the hummingbirds attack,
Yeah, that was effed up.
and that was apparently they had real hummingbirds,
What?
and they weren't doing what Vadim, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name. I'm gonna go with Vadim. So he just like was blowing the hummingbirds at Jane Fonda with a large fan.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Jane Fonda had birdseed in her costume, so they were actually doing that.
Oh, that
and,
must have sucked.
And apparently Roger Ebert had visited the set and said the birds were also losing control over natural body function, so it was a little messy. There's bird shit all over the
Shitting
place.
all over.
Ugh.
Poor Jane
And-
Fonda.
And after 2 weeks of this, she got a fever and was hospitalized.
No wonder.
And this is Jane Fonda talking about her discomfort on the film set in her autobiography. She said the director Vadim began drinking during lunch, his words slurred, and his decisions on how to shoot scenes often seemed ill-considered.
And that's her damn husband.
Yeah, or ex-husband.
Well, yeah,
crazy.
now obviously, but like
Yeah.
when we're filming this, can you imagine having to be like, all right, now we gotta go home.
Yeah. And apparently she was also bulimic at the time and was a young woman who hated her body, playing a scantily clad, sometimes naked sexual heroine. She was that some psychological damage there.
Yeah, Hollywood.
Well, I also
Yep.
like so another interesting thing about the I'm trying to find
Are we
anything
labeling this interesting?
redeeming. It may be interesting, but like just the argument of our talking point, you could kind of come up with the idea that in the future time where she's in, not the primitive time, there's sex is just putting your hand up and then
together.
taking that pill, and it's like
Isn't
that's what safe sex is.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't that sort of like how in what's that, Demolition Man?
Yeah,
Where
that's
they
what I
would
was
have
gonna
sex?
go.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was like
That's what
And-
they do
and
in
that's the-
Demolition Man.
Yeah, there's like Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes get frozen for being ultra-violent jerks in like the 90s, and then they wake up probably now or
Well, I think it
2034.
was- yeah, there was like in Barbarella, they was like in what 40th century or some shit like that.
But in Demolition
that-
Man, it happened in like less than a generation that somehow San Diego and Los Angeles combined, and sex is now entirely virtual, and like they put on little headsets and have little like a weird thingy, and then Stallone's like, I want to do the hunka chunka, let's do the thing. And then Sandra Bullock is
hell?
like, fluid transfer. Ew.
Your voices are spot on, Andy. I
It's-
really
it's-
felt like Sandra Bullock was talking to Sylvester Stallone right there.
I want to do the hunka chunka, the horizontal mamba. It's
It's like the Count from Sesame Street. Like,
Well, what to? I don't even know where to go with the Count in this. But one other, I forgot what I was talking about. But
You were talking about the sexual thing about the hand, and so I guess
Yeah.
I was just thinking like in 1968, their commentary on where sex was going to make it safer and everything else, probably coming from a bunch of hippies that wanted it to be free love and make love to everybody. They didn't like the idea that pills are going to be involved, but it's also a precursor to Sex Packets, the Digital Underground 1989 album, where they have a lot of songs about sex packets where you just take a pill and then it's all in your mind, the sex.
all right, so you're saying not only was Duran Duran inspired by this film, but Shock G was as well.
I think.
Apparently, that's
I
the
bet you
theory.
could find it.
Oh yeah, Barbarella.
Everything's related in the
This
Joverse.
episode just voices.
I could do that. But I mean, if you want to try to find what's the most positive thing you can glean about, or you can spin this, is that like everything I'm reading is like the visuals are very inventive, even though they look like sort of cheap and schlocky, but at the same time there's a lot of wild artistic design going on with the set and the costumes and things like that. And
I love the shag carpet spaceship. I mean, that should be what a spaceship is.
like, yeah,
I love shag carpets. So soft and wonderful.
I'm gonna take you back.
I'm
to
pretty
the
sure that
70s.
I'm pretty sure Austin Powers probably referenced when they were making Austin Powers. You know, the one scene.
Oh yeah,
where they had like the
oh yeah.
Like most of their sex scenes probably was modeled after some shit like this.
Right. I think this was the kind of movie that Austin Powers was like referencing and spoofing at the same time. Like it was spoofing that like this 60s silly laugh-in style wacky comedy, silly, weird, don't take this too seriously kind of thing.
Well, let's not forget the whole thing is like at the end, she's too badass of a woman for his giant sex machine. She
what are you doing to my machine?
Yeah, like he can't kill her with pleasure.
Because she can take more than it can give out, and it's like you're just a weak man who can't get it up compared to her badassery vagina time. And it's just like her, like she broke his machine, the ultimate sex machine that can destroy any woman because she succumbs to the pleasure. She's like, nope, bring it on, bitch.
That's not a commentary on womanhood. I don't know what is.
So basically,
here, men, we don't really need you.
Yes,
and we can survive without you.
That's it. And you don't even have enough pleasure for me. Your greatest pleasure is nothing.
That's why Joe thought this was a great movie for feminists, because he was like, "Hey, look at this! Look at her! Look how." I
was trying to find anything that would like fit the feminism narrative.
I definitely think retroactively you can say, "Oh, what a cool choice," but knowing the director was drunk and out of his damn mind, knowing what went on, like it would be a hard argument to give, because you can tell he didn't give a damn about the writing. Again, he was just like, skimpier. Yes. Skimpier. Yes. And you can tell, like, as you're going through the scene, like, this was so terrible that each of two grown children who each walked by at one point and said, what the hell is this? What the hell are you watching?
Yeah, my kids both did that several times too.
And I had to be like, it's for a podcast, guys. Joe picks dumb movies. I said, Joe picks dumb movies. But like,
all I can think of is like, what is TBJ possibly going to think about this?
So like, angry. And I'm glad I waited till my niece is 7. So I'm glad I waited she was gone to like watch this. But it's hard to make that argument on the good, quote unquote, things, because you knew that was not his intention or care, and how he mistreated his own wife during filming.
Yeah.
Like,
Vadim in his own memoir said that Fonda didn't enjoy shooting Barbarella, specifically that she disliked the central character for her lack of principle, her shameless exploitation of her sexuality, and her irrelevance to contemporary social and political realities. So yeah, Jane Fonda did not like doing this. Plus, like, there's even more crap that filming was awful for this. But
yeah, can you imagine trying to do that bird scene now? If somebody even suggested
imagine
a union that they're gonna
no actress would be like, okay. No studio would allow that.
Yeah.
Well, we're living at the age of the green screen anyway, so unless they're super method, they wouldn't probably be doing what.
Ain't enough method in the world. Ain't enough method in the world.
But the producer is Dino De Laurentiis, who is you may recognize this kind of aesthetic from, like, he would later produce Flash Gordon, that
right
in like 1980, I think, with the Queen soundtrack. And he had done, this is like right on the heels, he did another comic book adaptation right before this called Danger Diabolique, which has a bit more of a, as I can tell, I've never seen this either, and I haven't read the comics it's based on, but I think it's got a bit more of a positive response.
Well, I also kept thinking of, like, you know, other movies that happened the sexploitation movies, right? So I think about Foxy Brown, who is a badass woman fighting crime, but also her outfits are meant to entice a certain gaze, right?
Yeah.
But there's more I can find on commentary of like women's issues in that, even though it's still not, cinematic.
Could it also be though that because it's more it's double-handed, I guess, right? Because with Barbarella, you just have the white American female, whereas with Foxy Brown, you're dealing with a woman who happens to also be black. So it's like you don't want to, I guess, be exploitive to the sense that Barbarella is, but then also kind of sort of throw more of a empowerment message in there. Make any sense?
I see what you're trying to say. And maybe Pam Grier was a little more sassy and was like, ain't no way I'm doing that. Maybe directors and writers weren't drunk off their ass and cared a little bit more. Because they didn't want it to be good. Like, I have the sense of watching Barbarella. I'm like, did they want it to be good? Because at first I was like, oh, it's the 60s. But then I thought back to movies in the 60s that were actually good. And I was like, we can't go with that theory because there is good cinema in the 60s.
Well, I feel like in the very beginning, just like the intro was probably one of the, and not even for her nudity part, I think the intro was probably one of the greatest things in this movie. The intro and the fact that it's leaving Amazon Prime tomorrow. But
yeah.
I feel like it wanted to be kind of trippy. Well, a lot of trippy.
Yeah.
So, it had like that 60s element of it, but then just the sexualification of it was of missing.
Every scene, like even everyone's facial expressions always seemed like they were on every talk. I was like, are we just coming off an orgasm or are we about to have every facial expression of every character? It's like the director is like, hey, I want you to look like this. But every time, I'm like, yo. And then he would have her. Then he would have these pauses between speech, like the camera would pan to Barbarella. O-face, pause, words, pan to the other character, especially women. O-face, pause, words.
Imagine a script for this, like just doing a table read of Barbarella.
It had apparently 14 different writers at different points.
So part of, I'm getting back to the comic, it was a French comic from the 60s. So do we think the French bit has anything to do with it being a little bit more out there too, that it's the whole concept
is a French comic through an Italian production company? Which is Dino De Laurentiis, who is Italian
in the 60s.
A lot of
first of all, go to the 60s and then go to France and have an Italian. That's.
French cinema can be out there, but it's also some of the most renowned stuff. Yeah. But this is one of the reviews of this movie at the time was this is 1968, I guess.
1968, the same year that In the Heat of the Night won the Best Picture.
Good for you.
They said in the years that Stanley Kubrick, in the year that Stanley Kubrick and Franklin Schaffner, who directed 2001: A Space Odyssey and Planet of the Apes, respectively, finally elevated the science fiction movie beyond the abyss of the kiddie show, Roger Vadim has knocked it right back down. That was a review at the time.
Because I think there's a way, looking at some of the comic, it's definitely meant to be sexualized, right? But there's a way to make it sexualized and still be good. Again, I don't know if it's excessive drinking had a lot to do with this, or he just didn't give a damn. Someone gave him a budget and he was like, hell yeah, rock out.
Yeah.
But there's all of these things. Making it trippy was also done at that time and done well. Sexualizing it, also done at that time and done well. All of these things that are in this movie have been replicated somewhere else and done to not this level of trash. And so it's amazing. Like we said at the beginning, I think the thing that makes it stand out is Jane Fonda's reputation and not the actual movie's reputation. Like Andy said, I think we know her and her stance and her politics and her all the work she's done. And so we think, it must have been that because it was her. But then when you go back and watch it, you're like, oh,
she wasn't quite her yet, I guess.
Right.
But I think you also have to, I mean, I was trying to watch it in the vein of pretend, Star Wars hadn't existed yet. Star Trek hadn't basically, I mean, like 67 or 68. 68.
Yeah. And
so I guess Star Trek was probably around, but
shit.
Wasn't it like
60s.
Lost in Space?
Yeah.
I guess there was some other stuff. I guess I was trying to just think. I am fascinated by like times when my parents were younger.
I feel like maybe they also at that time they had too much money for this, and they felt like let's just do a whole lot of extra shit, make it seem like it's big budget. We'll have sex here, sex there, exploding sex machines. We'll have like sex worship. We'll have like the whole essence of man. We'll have all of that, and it's going to be a great movie.
You know what?
But it could have been like. Here's the thing: you could have taken careful care of that movie. P.S. The first Star Trek was 1966. So again, there are movies happening where shit can be done right and well.
Right.
You could have had big sex, sexual energy, essence of man. Hell yeah, get into that shit. All that could have existed, and it still have been done well. At the end of the day, no matter how you go back and try and reframe it, this is trash.
They just didn't do it. Like for as much as it was at the beginning of it, I was like, is this a porno? There really wasn't a lot of sex.
I've seen better pornos. Like, come on.
Well, that's it. There wasn't really a lot of sex. At the beginning, she's naked. And then
they always cut. They cut to like when her and the angel, it's like quick cut. Now she's laying covered by the
bed. Yeah, it's like
they cut the good parts.
And it's like a lot of porn setups. Like, oh, I need something from you.
Yeah.
Well, you know what you can give me. All right. And then cut to afterwards.
It's just like that joke I wanted to do. Like I wanted to take porn movies and cut out all the sex. That's what this movie is. It's basically all the sex cut out of weird, like that fucking bird guy. What the hell? Like both
angel.
My kids,
he's an angel.
Angel, yeah. Both my kids walked in when that guy was on the screen. It's like, what's up with that guy? And I was like, well, he's blind. And that kind of explains it, but what the?
Yeah, it's so dumb.
When he's flying, like, what is the flying was hilarious. My dog, Wheezy, my dog, hated it, that guy. Like, she started barking at the TV when he was flying. Like, what? She wanted to bite.
You showed she knew it was trash.
You did a polo of that, right? Did you do a polo of that?
I think I probably did. Yeah.
Yeah.
She was pissed at that angel guy. She's like, this movie sucks.
Wheezy knew.
But I did feel like I guess what I really was trying to get out of is like, is this a piece of film, science fiction history? Like, is there a reason
you wanted to make it an art house? You was hoping
you were trying way too hard. This is a case of you overthinking.
Honestly, there's just so much I'm ignorant of throughout like science fiction and movie history and stuff that it's hard for me to know, like, is this an important thing I need to have seen? Like, I never saw Battlestar Galactica. I never saw this. I never saw that. And so a lot of things Gruff mentions in the Gruff and Loud show, he knows everything. So like he just offhand mentioned Barbarella one time alongside Flash Gordon and some other things. And I was like, okay, I at least know what Flash Gordon is. I've never even heard of Barbarella. I got to figure out what this is. It's one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, but my point was, I guess I was going to say it has such a vibe. My guess is what they were trying to do at that time in 1967, 68 was they thought this was going to be an art house thing, a piece. Like, this is going to be so avant-garde, so out there. Like, this is Andy Warhol's going to love this, those kind of people, the beatniks and all that. And it just wasn't good.
Here's what Vadim explained why he wanted to do it.
Okay.
He was expressing, he was just getting into comic books or comics in general, including, Charles Schultz's Peanuts is referenced here in Wikipedia for some reason. But he's like, he liked the wild humor and impossible exaggeration of comic strips, which is, I've said before, like, you can do the thing that's great about comics is that anything you imagine, if you're able to draw it, you can put it on. There's no production costs you have to worry about. So and wanted to do something in that style. himself, and he wanted to depict a new futuristic morality. Barbarella has no guilt about her body. I want to make something beautiful out of eroticism. And
does he know he failed? Like, does he?
Did he ever say like, yeah, I sucked?
All right, what is? I'm all right.
Or I wonder what the reception was at the time. Like,
There's no. I'm looking at other movies in that time frame, and there's no way this came out. And people are like, yeah.
Well, I mean, like we were, like you said, like Star Trek went from 66 to 68. It only lasted 3 seasons. It was kind of considered not really like overall a failure, I guess. Like after 3 seasons, like at the time, Star Trek wasn't considered a big hit. Or at least,
it got canceled, I think.
Yeah,
and then they brought it back later.
Like it had like an animated series in the 70s.
But Star Trek's boring as fuck.
Listen. No. Star Trek nerds, don't do it, Joe.
Sorry, Star Trek nerds.
We're not about to get
Star Trek is like I try to watch the cartoon. I just
you can say
fall
it
asleep.
Is boring to you and you don't feel Star Trek, but there are some very passionate.
I don't know if you need to watch. You can't start with the cartoon. The cartoon is basically like.
No, I started with the series, and I'm just I can't. I should love it. Like it should be interesting, but it's just so.
No,
flat
it's definitely
for me.
But here's the thing about fandoms, right? Just because you're a fan of one thing doesn't necessarily means you'll be a fan of another thing, and that's nerddom specifically.
That's true. I'll never get with Danhausen. I'll never get with AEW.
There are fans who will die for Star Trek, and there are some people who are like, I don't.
Have you tried watching the Chris Pine Star Trek show? Have you tried watching the new one?
Yeah, that's basically J.J. Abrams trying to turn Star Trek into Star Wars.
Trying to make it cool. Yeah,
pretty much.
I can't remember if I watched it or not.
You should try watching one.
I think I did. When did that come out? In the
2009, I believe.
Yeah, and I don't think I ever actually saw the third one.
I didn't.
There was 3 of them, and then the
they're watchable. They're watchable.
I enjoyed watching that Star Trek reboot more than I thought I would. And I think what sold me was like there's a bit right at the very end where Chris Pine gives a little bit of a Shatner impression, barely at the very end. I was like, okay, I needed a little bit of more Shatner in this thing.
It's one they do a lot of callbacks, like classic. It's like what's the name of that bullshit ass movie I watched not too long ago? Where like the dude said,
I like you said that like we're supposed to know what
I'm inner monologuing. I am the mighty Artstar. I am inner monologuing. You will recognize.
I really want to see a movie actually titled "This Bullshit Ass Movie."
Andy, that's our second movie. We already said we were going to be in charge of one series.
Here's the thing.
This is our another production break.
Here's the
this
thing.
Bullshit ass movie.
Listen. For some reason, you guys sometimes try to stop me from being great, right?
Okay.
If you let me fit, if you like, literally, a lot of times these zingers that you guys be throwing back at me, where they come from? They came from the lips of me.
I throw zingers back at you that come from you.
If you let me see, you guys, you hold on too much to the craziness that I say before you let me finish the thought. And like, you was like,
we want you to finish your thought. We were just curious why you were asking us something. We didn't know you were in a monologue.
The crazy makes the money. The crazy lines is what would sell.
Exactly.
You have to say inner monologue coming, and then we know to let you be and let you be great.
I shouldn't have to telegraph it. It should be one of those things like, oh shit, what crazy shit is this motherfucker going to say now?
I was just trying to.
If you know it's coming, it doesn't work.
I was just trying to stop and make sure that line was recognized for what it was. I didn't want you to just throw away what was this bullshit ass movie I saw the other day.
That's a t-shirt right there.
You'll recognize it, but then you'll hold on to it and it'll come back up later on like, oh yeah. Like there have been plenty of time just out of bullshit randomness where we're talking, what you say, Andy? I don't know if it's an Easter chicken or an Easter egg. Did I sit there and say like, hey, you guys, remember this word here, Easter chicken, we can use this throughout the podcast? No, It's natural. The madness of Artstar is natural. You can't make this shit up.
Speaking of natural, Artstar and I are gonna take our clothes off for the rest of this podcast.
No, you're not. Go ahead with your inner monologue.
Are you guys both gonna get into that orgasmatron thing together?
Together, baby, and we're gonna destroy it.
I don't think you can.
Not even that. We're just gonna sit there.
That thing will destroy me in a second.
And there's gonna be smoke coming out, like it was when her and that one dude would just touch the head.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So if I won't get on you two touching hands, I've been warned.
Holding hands, touching. Oh,
Sweet Caroline.
Bop, bop, bop.
Oh,
see, I know it was going to have something to do with that damn Dirty Ape, but just like how, you know, throughout the Star Trek movies, there's a lot of lines that, you know, would be, if you were into watching the Star Trek series, that get brought up from the characters playing, like, you know, like the whole, I've given her all I can get. She can take Captain. Like, you hear Simon Pegg say that because he's playing the character from the 60s Star Trek movie. So it's a reboot, but then it also sometimes pays homage to the series by actually having the actors who play in the certain characters say certain lines that you heard if you were a Star Trek nerd.
It's not even really a reboot. It's sort of like an alternate timeline. They got around that by having Leonard Nimoy going back in time, creating a branching timeline, which I don't think is how time travel works in the Star Trek universe. But for this case, yes, it was a way to get around nerds going, that didn't happen in that episode, by saying this is a new reality.
And if I remember, they used the Kobayashi Maru. Does that sequence where Spock, when Spock was asking Spock, how did they beat Khan and his timeline or whatever? And he was like, well, I can't tell you. You have to kind of like figure it out for yourself, kind of thing. You have to watch it. You have to watch it, Joker. Talking about this.
Does that argument, is that like the end all be all argument for all nerds? Like you can now say another timeline and then they stop all their arguments. Does that work now since the MCU's doing that?
If you're having a continuity argument,
Newhart does that.
Not
you call him a variant.
Tom
the
Post
Joe verse,
an alternate timeline.
You got the Joe verse.
Yeah. Well, I just found out in the Joe verse that Days of Our Lives and Newhart are in the same timeline because Carol Brady is Joanna's mom.
Lord
Newhart.
You in this timeline.
Also, I think it's worth noting that in 1977, Barbarella was re-released with the nudity cut out after the success of Star Wars as Barbarella, Queen of the Galaxy.
Oh, they thought they were gonna override the poor writing by just cutting out the nudity.
Yeah, well, I think this either science fiction is huge. Let's throw this thing out. We did this. 10 years ago.
I'll bet you when they made Star Wars, they probably thought it was going to be just another Barbarella because it's the same kind of shitty type of graphics and stuff. You know what I mean? But I say it all the time,
shitty graphics.
Are you saying that the production value of Star Wars is equal to the production value of Barbarella?
No, but it's in the same ballpark. I'm just saying the first Star Wars, they didn't think it was going to be a huge hit. Like it was low budget. It was, the second one was a lot more budget because it was such a hit. But George Lucas didn't think that'd be a hit. Like he didn't think anybody care about that. It was like this shitty little sci-fi thing. And so it's got that same. It's kind of got that same feel. Like that's what this kind of felt like. Nobody knows when they're making a movie that it's going to be anything. Like they're just pumping out movies, and then something hits like Star Wars. I think.
They didn't think it would hit like Star Wars hit because nothing had hit like Star Wars hit.
No, I'm not saying they didn't think, but Star Wars didn't think because nothing had hit. So they were all.
I think they thought it would be good. I think they thought
shit.
It would. I think Harrison Ford didn't think it would work, but
no. But George Lucas he said that like everybody told him this wasn't gonna be anything. Like this is gonna be just a stupid shitty B movie. We're not going to give you any time. Like he had doors closed in his face
But
all the time.
He still felt like it was going to be something, or he wouldn't have made the movie, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we have the same substance behind a Barbarella. Like, again,
Barbarella's
go
just
back
as good.
to him and his alcoholism at the time and poor choices.
You know what? Barbarella is not only just as good. Barbarella is better than Star Wars.
I will not be attacked because of your dumb opinions.
I think Joe should remake this movie while he's drinking.
Can we make it? Can we make it good? Could you make it good?
Yeah.
Me? No.
TBJ could make it good.
Good. What
could you do to make it good? Like what?
A good
besides the script. The script was shit. Yeah.
No, I think a good
with
script,
the concept.
Good actors. I think you can even like some of the dorky, stupid things can work if the rest of it is working. Like it all can't be trash, right? If 2 of the 3 things are great, we can forgive the third thing. Like there's nothing in here that we're like, well, I can forgive this part. Like think about it. So let's fast forward 5-6 years, and you have Rocky Horror, which is essentially a sexualized underground show with characters. And that shit is.
You never seen? Did you say you never seen that?
Yeah, that's another one that I never saw.
You've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show,
and only because of the principle.
Joe, you bullshitting us. You bullshitting
because of I've probably mentioned this before. Like when something is, I could never have the opportunity because in college everybody was going to go see it. And every single person I went to see it, we're like, you gotta come see it. Oh, we got all this toast, we got all this thing. And they were saying all the lines, even on the way to go to it. And I was like, I'm not gonna be able to enjoy this because you're gonna say everything.
You could have just put yourself in a room. Here's the thing about that movie, though. What at the time it wasn't like, oh, this is the most beautiful thing. Like this is the definition of a cult classic. Yeah. This is the definition of the audience going, ha ha ha, we can have fun with this. But it's campy, it's over sexualized, like it's all of these things. And people are still going to art houses today to watch that damn movie and dress up. You do not see any Barbarella art house nights happening.
I guess what I'm saying, TBJ, could to make it good. Okay, if I say
it
to
just
you,
needs a rewrite. Honest to God, if the script was, people forget how much words matter in any movie or TV show. Yeah. Words can make or break what you're doing. You can keep the sexual energy.
You keep the same storyline, like where she is.
She went to save someone. Like
woman
she's a badass.
That her orgasms are gonna destroy the evil Duran Duran, the evil liquid that thrives on evil.
But she doesn't try to destroy him with his orgasm. Let's note that he attempted to destroy her, and she was just too good to be defeated with her pleasure principles. So
pleasure principle.
Exactly.
Oh, you brought Janet Jackson into this.
Sure did. Another woman.
Boom.
Kills it. But I think writing and a director who cares and builds an actual story, you can build that same story. It can still be campy. Campy's not bad. There are good campy movies. It can still be campy. We can still have free loving of the 60s. That's what makes it campy and cheeky. But if a director cared more and wrote some better lines, and we stop pausing in between everyone's lines, like that killed. Like that.
It's for dramatic effect. For dramatic flair.
I literally, as an actor, I hate that. Like lines. Yeah. We're in a dialogue on stage. If you have to pause every time someone volleys you a line, please get off the stage.
I was just looking at the reception on Wikipedia, like how it was received then, and a lot of people did say just that. Just the writing was terrible. The acting wasn't particularly good. Like the people weren't very good at. There were a couple funny lines, but they weren't very good at delivering them. And they said most people's complaint was the very beginning was really sexy. The little sexy slow striptease got you interested, got you into it, and then the rest of it was just blah. So I think the writing is the biggest. It's just not well written, and like it's almost like what the hell is even going on, and like why is he mad at her? Like what's he's taking over the world, and
Well, you
defeating
can
him by
even explain that
Like,
away, like, you know, taking over the world. That's a lot of men's ambition, right? I will rule the world. Damn it.
Yeah.
I will be in control. That's not even a bad plot line. Again, how it was played off, how it was written, all of it is just. Which, oh God, I don't know if I've watched anything. This is worse than Howard the Duck. Like,
so I accomplished something. I found something worse.
They're
than Howard the
still
Duck.
in the trash pile, but this is like
that's Joe's thing.
Maybe-
Joe's nerd thing is trying to find the worst movie and figure out why.
Well, the thing is, he keeps trying to justify it. Like, he spent the last hour trying to justify why this isn't a horrible movie.
No, it is. It's horrible.
What could have been good about it? But you keep saying, "Well, I keep trying to look at it." Well, maybe
he wants to fix it. He wants to fix it.
He can't, Joe. He screwed it up.
Like Howard the Duck. Could that have been good? Could that have been good? Could you have done Howard the Duck?
Yeah, the comic books are sort of cult
People
popular. Yeah, like he's sort of a weird, he's kind of a sardonic parody of comic stuff sometimes.
Yeah.
So you could do that. And I'm reading some more about the actual comic book version of Barbarella, which was a big hit in '62. Was like considered one of the first adult comic books.
So I think that's it.
Yeah.
It was an adult comic book, and so
which is fine. Again, we know that with good, responsible work, you can have like sex is nothing to be ashamed of. We can show it. We can show people coming into their own. There's nothing wrong with showing women enjoying it. There's nothing wrong with showing women, hey, we use it to get ahead. Like, that's all fine. Except in this particular movie, in the hands of the writers and directors, they didn't do it. They
just didn't do it.
They didn't bring it. They
didn't do it.
Like, so it's so I like that you're. I mean, I guess what I'm getting from you is you're saying it's not that it was the exploitative bit of it wasn't the bad thing. I was just thinking.
No, there's a whole genre of sexploitation. There's a whole genre of sexploitation. I think we have to look at the different variants of sexploitations and the lead women's experience during these movies, right?
Yeah.
Like, I would have a hard time standing behind one of these movies when the woman said this was horrible to me. You know, Foxy Brown's never come out and said this was dumb, I hated it, and I was mistreated. If she had said those things, I would also not want to watch those movies.
Yeah.
But Jane Fonda has come out and said this was a horrible time. Like,
yeah,
this was not great for me. So there's nothing wrong with sexploitation as long as all parties are on board with what they're filming and what they're creating.
Well, and it's that is shitty, but it also was just bad. It just wasn't done well. Like, it wasn't even really shocking or anything. Like, it was just kind of like at the beginning you think it's gonna be one thing, and then it's just
I just kept trying to think, as you know, movies are different than plays, but as someone who, you know, we had to learn how to direct plays in college, and I think to like all that goes into getting a feeling out of a scene and, you know, coaching your actors through, and I'm thinking to myself, as he's filming this, does he pause and like, is he doing any scene work? Does he care? But Jane Fonda said it herself. Listen, by lunch he was off his sober.
Yeah,
he wasn't there. Like, and it's not like they started at the dawn of morning. Shoot, they probably got 2 hours in and then suddenly to the bottle. So I think this is just a product of the movie matched the experience. It was not good.
The comic Jean-Claude Forest, I think was going for more of what you thought it was, Joe, at the beginning. He's
the whole reason I picked it. Yeah.
Yeah, like like the actual comic apparently recently had a translation because it was French. So but like there was a new English version was published in 2014 with a translation from Kelly Sue DeConnick, who is a Marvel writer known for basically bringing Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, up to date. Like, when she came onto the character, she had the costume that was basically translated into the film version. So like that series is all about, like, even all the art in that is very much of a yes we can kind of, or we can do it kind of thing. And like, so the actual comic strip I don't think isn't really porny. It's but she's definitely she's She has sexual encounters with men, women, and robots, all quite tastefully portrayed. This article says from Comics Alliance that I'm reading, and nothing. It's not really explicit. It's just what she does is lose her clothes a lot, but that's about it.
But as TB just said earlier, like, you know, it's all about women using what they got to get what they want. When I was in college,
which is real,
yeah. When I was in college, I had a seminar class called The Body, which at the time I didn't know exactly the makeup of what the class was all about, other than it was me, another guy, and the rest of the class was female. And we had this one discussion where the one girl, she called it the power of the pussy. And it was just all about just how powerful women are just by their, I want to call it birthing zone, because that was just kind of crude what I just said. But
well, if you're quoting,
say it again.
Did you say
you were quoting, right?
Did you say birthing zone?
I did say birthing.
he did. He said birthing zone. Mhm.
That's not crude.
I'm waiting to see where he's going with that.
Yeah,
well,
keep going.
All I'm just saying is, like Andy was saying, how, you know, her clothes was coming off, she was doing this. It wasn't like it was sexual, but it was probably sexual in the way of not necessarily conquest, but like, you know, I can make this man putty in my hand by doing this, so I can make this happen. I can make that happen. I'm a woman. I'm powerful. I'm going to use what I got to, you know, take control of the thing.
Here's another big difference, though, in the comic book, giving that message and being powerful. Andy just said it's a woman taking the lead on telling this story. We have in which is beneficial. Women led, women's storytelling. Women can talk about we are sexual creatures. Like, we're all the things, right? We're not just your moms and your school teachers and your librarians. And like, so I think the comic has a point. Here is a badass woman tackling the world, and she loves a little pleasure. Okay. And if the pleasure can get her what she wants, okay, let's do the damn thing. But it's not exploitive because it's a woman telling the story of a woman.
Yeah.
You get a bunch of dudes in a room,
all that testosterone and all that testosterone.
They are not going to carefully care about telling the story well. They're going to care about how skimpy can this damn costume be.
Yeah, this is like, I'm reading an article from a woman named Elle Collins on Comics Alliance about the original comic, and apparently Forrest thought basically was just going for a future extrapolation of the modern of the time free love practicing empowered woman. But I think like the bigger note is that they say like Barbarella is never punished for being this, which so often in media is like, that's the thing.
So this day, how dare
like,
she?
Yeah, if a woman, you know, expresses herself and gets what she wants, whatever, like somehow she has to pay for that in the eyes of misogyny in general, and like you're being disrespectful and you need to know your place.
Meanwhile, men can do it whenever they want.
Yeah,
I mean, throw your money
modest.
at you.
And
do all these things. But if a woman uses it to her advantage and has equal conquest, oh my God, how dare she? Something is wrong with her.
Yeah, even if she's not like using it transactionally, it's just like,
no,
I'd like to do this right now.
Just enjoying it, like, right?
So the character
America is bad at that.
Yeah. So the character of Barbarella is a feminist icon, but the movie doesn't portray it.
Yeah, it doesn't do it.
I think that's the safest. Yes.
Right.
I think the intention of the comic strips is for her to be able to exist in a world where she is not reprimanded for being a sexualized woman.
I just thought of something. I wonder if we should ever like review a comic book. Like, I mean, we're so heavy talking about comics and movies, but it's generally just movies. But I'd be interested in, because I guess particularly this one.
We're this far into Nerd School, and this is the first time we're considering let's actually all read a comic book together.
It's been like that lately, though. There's a few things he's like, we should check. We should.
Well, I'm just thinking mainly because most often the complaint is that the movie didn't do the comic justice. Everybody thought the comic was art, and this was just a garbage version. This was great, and this was garbage.
The thing.
And if we read what everybody says is the great thing, and then
I
maybe
think we lose our audience. Like, I think you're going to have a lot of people, and the people that I know who listen, and there are other people, are going to be more likely to be movie watchers than comic readers. And I like the way we have Andy come in and Art too with comic facts.
Give us the facts,
because it backs up the movie.
And see, here's the thing though, Joe. See, while you're sitting there saying, like, that should have been your inner monologue moment right there. Like, if you're picking something and you're like, okay, I'm picking this movie because it's based on a comic book, then you should also, while you're watching a movie, you should be pretty much doing what Andy is doing for your movie.
Yeah, I ain't doing
like, for instance, like my movie.
Joe's like, I'm not.
I don't have time for
like my movie. I've actually started reading some of the books just because of, like, I want to see, how it kind of relates. But it's not something where I would want to sit there and say, like, okay, guys, let's talk about how I'm an issue 4 of Losers and how it relates to the movie.
Yeah,
like, it's just like it's one of those things. Like,
but you're a tenured professor. You're like, you know your thing. I'm just a kid. I'm just a baby.
Right.
I was just born this morning.
Imagine it.
I'm just a baby.
You're the student. I'm doing air quotes for the listeners. You're the student.
I'm the stoned college kid.
So it should be part of your research automatically.
I'm the drunken frat boy.
But you still should be like, why? Like, you're a drunken frat boy, but while the other boys are sitting there who are non-existent at this point, doing that frat boy shit, you're over in the corner. You pull out your glasses, you open the comic book, and you're looking over your shoulder, making sure they're not watching, and you're taking fucking notes. Like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get them. Like, when we had this episode, I'm gonna say, hey Andy, guess what I know now? Like, yeah, that should be you.
I do think that maybe once we get to the end of phase 3 of the MCU, it might be worth taking an episode to, like, go get the Infinity Gauntlet graphic novel, or like the actual book that most of this story was based on, and it's very different. And I'm curious to see how going from the movies and then going back to, like, the old comics from, like, the 70s and 80s, I think, what that experience would be like, especially for a dumb frat boy.
I think maybe we have, like, a special. I think maybe we save that for, like, a special Patreon behind the scenes,
just
show.
one episode or something.
Yeah, we have a special, because I think, honestly, let's be real, getting all 4 of us on the same page should do anything with our schedules. If anyone else wants, again, shout out to listeners, if you have money in the bank and discretionary income and you want to sponsor us so that we don't have to work 40 hours a week plus,
right?
Because we all work more than 40. If you want to come sponsor us, we could do such things. Throw that money at that Patreon, throw that money at a Cash App. We're here for you. Support our lifestyle. Yeah. But I think until we have the ability and more space and time, the way we have it formatted now is great. Because we do have, we have comic book experts. And I do like what Art says, you can peek in on your book, like on the book that goes with your movie. If you want, you don't have to. But, Andy's always going to come with the comic book facts. So I feel like.
I just feel like if I read a comic book, I would need probably help understanding what the fuck I'm reading.
We'll have a day. We'll go to the
what is this show
together. Yeah.
This is the Nerd Skool.
We can have a day where we go to the comic book store together and just take a recording and we go through some comics with you, Joe.
And you guys read them to me and act them out in the store in cosplay.
Yes. Listen,
die!
I don't need an excuse.
TBJ is gonna be Barbarella for Halloween, y'all.
I damn sure I'm not, unless we're on OnlyFans and someone's throwing some money at that.
And we are showing up at Heroes Con. Watch out for Nerd Skool at Heroes Con, everybody.
Yes,
full cosplay.
I won't probably cosplay. I'll be bounding.
You'll be what?
Remember, it's the subtle. The Disney doesn't allow cosplay, so you have to be subtly.
You can suddenly be in character without overtly wearing a full costume.
Wait, who doesn't allow that?
Disneyland.
So you can't go to Disney World for
The
costume.
the House of
So
Mouse.
they've created. I want you to go search Joe Disney bounding.
Oh,
then you'll understand. So
I've never
I like
heard of
to
this.
subtly walk in.
We've talked about it on this show. You're just not listening.
What's it called? Dounding?
Bounding.
Bounding.
It's taking the color scheme of a character.
You're
and
taking the
sort
color
of, yeah.
scheme, certain aspects of their
Well,
outfit.
you named the episode that we talked about that. And I'll go back.
We've
and
talked
listen
about
to
it
this.
more than once because Andy's had questions for me.
Name 4 episodes because I've ever heard.
We've talked about it, Joe, because I bound more than I don't cosplay. One, budget, who has budget and children. But I will bound. We talked about it because we talked about last time I went to Heroes Con. I did a feminine Harry Potter.
I don't think I knew the word. I don't think I heard you say the word for it. Maybe I did. I just wasn't.
Maybe you were drunk.
I was probably doing something else.
You were drunk.
I was probably busy giving Artstar back rubs.
You might have been.
manly back rubs.
Nothing wrong with a manly back rub.
So I will likely be bounding, but I will definitely come in character-driven attire to HeroCon.
Well, back to the back rubs. Everybody knows Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake gave each other back rubs before the Dream Team would wrestle. That's what we are.
One more thing about the Barbarella's influence. I'm just gonna let that be a sentence that you've said, and let that be.
We're power and glory. He's Hercules.
Yeah.
I'm Paul Roma.
I'm powering through that mental image of Greg the Hammer Valentine and Brutus Beefcake giving each other back rubs. There is.
I love it, Andy.
I mean, Barbarella sort of, I think, established a sort of subgenre of comics of like really like sort of sexy pinup stars with really skimpy costumes, but not necessarily being a full-on porny thing.
Yeah.
Like there's a well-known character named Vampirella.
Yeah.
Which is very obviously a Barbarella influenced kind of thing. And it's like her outfit is basically like
boobs out to the heavens.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a bathing suit that barely is anything. It's just like
and like the slits in the legs.
Yeah,
if you look at a lot of the female characters in the Image universe, I think Dynamite comics, a lot of their female characters on the covers, they're always scantily clad and boobtastic.
Sex sells.
Dynamite does a lot of like reimagining of the pulp heroes and like I think the public domain heroes that they can just go, all right, let's do what we can with I'm forgetting them all now. There's this character called the Spider, which very obviously has an influence on Spider-Man's costume.
Well, and the Spider was Randy Macho Man Savage's first wrestling name.
God bless us.
While we're talking about wrestling,
Joe's the wrestling nerd, people. Joe's the wrestling nerd.
But yeah,
but he doesn't like Danhausen.
Back to the Spider, Macho Man's first wrestling.
Did he wear a fedora and a Spider-Man cloak?
Probably.
All right, because that's kind of what the Spider looked like, and that's a very cool look. And he looks like if Spider-Man's mask was all black with white lines, and then he wore a fedora. And
is that what Venom is?
No,
that's anti-Venom.
I'm so confused about Venom. I always thought Venom was Spider-Man.
We're so far away from Barbarella for a moment.
Yeah, we are. We got off.
You know what?
There's what we do.
There's worse places to be than far away from Barbarella.
Mother.
That is accurate. But yeah, we are far off, and we've used a lot of time to talk about such a trash movie.
Yeah.
God bless it.
Trash movie.
All right. So
it's a trash movie.
Can I say one other thing about when we're talking about looking good and Vampirella, looked unbelievable. Can we talk about TBJ's appearance on the red carpet this week?
Thanks.
At the Bloomy Awards.
Sometimes I clean up, y'all. Sometimes.
Yeah.
She was killing it.
Thanks. Yeah, I had a dress emergency. I don't know if you know this. So I had a whole nother dress. You have to be following my Instagram stories. So I had a whole nother dress. It was great. It was beautiful. 2 hours before I was supposed to be at the reception for judges. My zipper broke.
Oh no. That's why you weren't answering my texts. You were busy.
Yeah, no. I ended up not making the judging reception. So I did not get any snacks or food, and I was starving by the time I got to the awards.
TBJ.
No snacks or food. Fuck that.
I got to the awards 5 minutes until start.
Oh no.
Because I went to 7 different stores to find a replacement dress. Thankfully, my hair and makeup was already done. and my Spanx was on, so it was also uncomfortable in my layers of Spanx running around 7. And it was like the great dress shortage of 2022. Anytime I walk into a store, I can find a dress that's just cute and ooh, I want to wear that. For some reason, this weekend was like, no, ma'am, not an emergency. You can't.
No.
Oh, you want a cute dress? And the trick is my shoes were red, sparkly, gorgeous shoes. So I had to also think of color while picking out dresses. It was a mess. But thanks, Joe. I felt good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you looked fabulous. But I don't know where would you guys even know, fellas, like where to even go buy a dress? Like
at a dress store?
Can you buy them at Target? Like
At a
where's
dress shop?
Like what?
I mean, you can buy at Target. This was a little dressier. This event for those of you listening. This is
I wouldn't even
regional.
Are there dress
awards.
stores anymore? Like Deb?
Yeah.
Is that a store? Is Deb?
There are lots of dress stores still.
There's one called Dress Barn.
Deb
That
at the
is
mall.
that is not the vibe we're going for. Dress barn is not it.
Dress barn. I don't even know what that is.
It's not great. But yeah, it was pure madness. Marshalls came through at the end. The second Marshalls of my manhunt came through with 2 options. I left the store. But I was real sad about missing the reception. Like real sad. Free food.
Can we
is
just
my love
acknowledge that
language.
TBJ, that's a struggle that we know nothing about, this whole struggle of
No, because you could have put on you could have just put on a suit.
I can imagine her energy though, because the last time I was around her, I felt like she was going to assassinate me because I didn't have any chocolate.
Probably. It is a stressful. Listen, y'all. I have a graduate happening in my house. We have graduations.
Yeah, congratulations.
In the
on that,
upcoming
too.
weekend, so my brain might be mushy. And I work 1,000 jobs, so that's not helpful. Yeah, we just closed the show at the theater company I work with, on top of regular work. So,
yep.
Nice.
3 Bone Theater, right?
Yep.
That
Well,
looks
where
awesome.
are you guys playing now? Where's 3 Bone?
We are at the Arts Factory. It's the O. Johnson C. Smith Black Box Theater. It's like walking distance. You can walk from a bunch of our theaters.
Oh, cool.
But we went back to back on shows, which we normally don't do, but time was available. So, and it was also happening while we were having Hamilton and Waitress at the same time.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Crazy
my
time.
brain over the last month may have not been great. And then, we've recorded since that one time I passed out. So
On the
was I
toilet.
taking care of myself well during this time? No, but I'm doing better.
Good. And so let's watch a better movie.
Yes.
So the
hell
next
yeah.
movie is, who's up next? Andy, because you had the second
Andy.
worst movie last time.
I thought we were doing the losers next.
No.
No,
No.
we're
Andy.
going in order of.
Alphabetical order, remember?
I thought we were
Okay.
going in order of how
Shit on
shitty they
alphabetical
were
order.
last time. Like Howard the Duck was shittiest, so I went first. Yours was second shittiest.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You're going second.
Snack Snyder's.
It wasn't
Justice
that
League.
his movie wasn't necessarily that it was shitty. It was
No,
the fact that he
yours
made
was
that
shitty.
episode
His
4 hours.
just wasn't the best of the picks. Yeah.
And it was 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So Scott Pilgrim versus the World. That's
Okay,
our
yeah.
next-
So this is cool because I have no idea what this is, and don't tell me.
I'm
We're
gonna
not.
say-
You
Go
got-
watch this.
Yeah.
And it won't be trash like what you picked, but it does have some problematic things.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's- I think you touched on that.
And speaking of that, I did look in the Barbarella comics. It's not all just feminist icon. There's some murky consent issues. It says,
in the comics,
yeah, but
I
you
can
can't
believe
be
that.
perfect
Murky.
in the '60s. The '60s was rife with that kind of stuff.
60
Well,
was
you know,
shit.
considering that people are still struggling with what consent means. By
Exactly.
people,
Yeah,
I mean men
that's exactly
are
it.
still
Yeah.
struggling with what do you mean I gotta get consent? Why would you not want to? Let's just
Yeah,
It's-
it's
It's a
bigger
mental
question
illness.
is why is that such a problem for you and what you've been doing out here all this time?
I'm
So
not an incel.
you don't even have to be an incel. Like consent.
it's
Yeah.
If you go listen to it's just way too many guys who talk about consent and who use coercion tactics and how,
Ugh.
which is not cool. But if you go listen to them, they
Gross.
feel like they're so right. And it's way too many men. Like it's way
Yeah.
too many men. And I'm like,
Scary. It's scary.
Right. I'm so glad I don't have daughters because I would be out here stabbing people.
I know.
Like if my daughter
scared.
came home and she was like, he pressured me. Where is he? Where is
he dead?
That's
he
gonna get it.
If my
He
sons
can get
came
it.
home and
That
said
motherfucker
someone
can't get it.
pressured them, I will stab her. Like, don't pressure anyone into like sex is not something to be pressured. And if you
That
feel like you're at a
motherfucker.
point where you're pressuring someone or having to convince you that it's great,
Well, and that's
No.
fucking the scary thing is just that. But look at like during the Me Too movement, how like every single fucking person, a woman has had that happen, and so it's statistically it's gonna happen.
because we
To
live
your
in
daughters.
a world that was made
Ugh.
for men and men have made the rules for a very long time. Women are using their voices to be like, hey, that makes me uncomfortable. And for too many years, we've been told, well, that's just boys being boys. It's
Yeah.
okay because that's just how guys are. That's just locker room talk. It's fine.
Yeah,
And
locker
the
room
more,
talk.
yeah, but it's taking more and more men to go, oh, wait,
Yeah,
that is not okay. Because women have been saying this for a very long time. It's just guys are getting on board with really saying it too.
yes,
That's because they're also being made to question themselves. So
Yeah.
then they tend to say, then they have to say, like, wait, how fucked up am I?
yeah. What have I done? You know, everyone's got to look at themselves.
That's
And,
any movement.
yeah.
I think we all know we all by human nature and design of our society have done some not great things.
Yeah,
But what happens is if you are in denial or don't know how to reconcile that shit, you double down. And that is what men have done. And this I tell my kids, like, this is the first time in history really that men have had to be likable and they don't know how.
yep.
They don't know how. Because before, listen, we made rules. You can't have a bank account without a husband or brother or dad. So you needed a husband in essence.
Yeah,
Your higher earning, you needed it. Now there's a generation of women who is like, fuck that. For what? I don't need a headache. Did you go to therapy? We can date then, but unless you went to therapy and got your shit together, I don't want you. And that's a large amount of women, and I'm here for it because they know that I'm not putting up with what my mom did. And the men who are like, oh, let's take it back to when our grandparents were together and they stayed married for 20 years or 100 years. Your grandma hated your grandpa. Like, newsflash.
yeah.
She likely hated your grandpa.
Yes.
You just didn't have a choice.
Yep.
Leaving was not an option. There are some older couples who are lovely and great and beautiful, but there are way too many. Hell, my own grandma don't like her husband. Okay, they've been married for like 50 years. When you're like, what do you like about him? I don't know. That's her. That is her. But men haven't had to be. The country was built for men, specifically white men, right? And byproduct other men,
rich
other
landowning
races.
men. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I have the money, I have the space. That's all I need. I haven't needed to behave. I haven't needed to be really truly likable, other than I can mask likable. But when we get home at night, I can pretend to be incompetent. Dishes, what's that? Oh, you had a baby and now I have to feed the other kids? Oh no, I don't know how. And meanwhile, your wife is doing 1,000 things and carrying all the weight. And you're like, but I have a good job. But she's carrying the emotional weight of your entire family. Like, this men, it's coming to a head because a lot of men are like, shit, I am not likable. How the hell? And some are smart in figuring it out and becoming better people, humans.
So you're saying
And-
Mr. Mom changed society, the movie.
Yes. That was the turning point for all men right there. Hollywood knew what it was doing. But
Daddy daycare.
Yes, that's all it took. But that's why, like, that's where we are and why the Me Too movement and why consent is such an issue, because men have been allowed, even our sons, we say, oh, boys just will be boys.
Yeah.
Like, I've threatened to murder my own sons. Like, I swear, I told my son, I swear to God, if a girl comes home with allegations, I will murder you. If you were in a room, especially my youngest as an athlete, and mob mentality is real. If you were in a room and you see some shit go down, you better step in. You are not a bystander. If I even get a whiff that you were in a room and a girl is being mistreated, or a male, anyone, I will come for you as your mother. Be scared of me, not what your friends will say when you step in and say, guys, this is not cool.
I'm
Be
scared
more
right
fearful
now.
of
You're not
your
even my mom.
But the problem is there are too many people whose parents let them be. If you go back, I watch a lot of true crime, Joe, you know this.
Yes.
There are too many cases when you listen to the mother of these men who've done some heinous things, they still don't hold their sons accountable.
Yeah, they make excuses, right?
And so think about that. When has a man had to be truly accountable? If your own mom
gone and I'm still here.
No,
Maybe
we're
I'm
here.
frozen.
Oh shit. Art must be frozen again.
Yeah, I was frozen.
Yeah,
I was
I can hear you.
He started randomly talking throughout TPJ's
right,
impassioned speech was building.
Listen,
and then
I'll be here.
Okay,
I'll be here all week. You can find me. This is integral, for anyone who doesn't know.
And while we're talking about TPJ liking true crime, we got to throw in there that she's about to launch.
There's a new podcast coming out, guys.
Oh shit.
So if you're like, oh my God, I love TPJ, she is my favorite and justifiable. Like, duh.
Yeah.
She is coming out with the podcast with her sister.
She's
called
one
Two
of the
Sisters,
favorites on the podcast.
and one of the favorites. I'll take it.
Yeah.
Two sisters in true crime. So my sister and I are true crime junkies. 99% of our conversations are, what you watch this week? Girl, did you see that case? Did you see the case homicide? No, but I know what they found in the basement. So that is my sister and I.
Awesome.
So listeners we will share one true crime story each episode, but you'll hear snippets of us just being sisters who are obsessed and what we do to force our mom to call us. How dare you be on a cruise ship by yourself? Here are the strategies. Don't play games. Here are your check-in points. We don't need you on an episode of the ID channel.
I would actually listen to that podcast if it was just TVJ having a conversation with herself as two different characters.
Well,
just that whole thing right back and forth.
Tempest is just as good. It's just as good. She's great.
Yes.
They've been on American Timelines, and I wanted them to call it the podcast Two Girls, One Cup. I mean, Two Girls, One Crime. One crime. Two Girls, One Crime.
Yeah.
I feel like
that
that might have actually already been taken.
It
or something
probably
like
is. Everything's taken. So you have to Google. You probably Googled for hours trying to find one that wasn't.
I wanted to make sure no one was using. There was another name that we liked, but someone was using it. It had to do with wine. So we had to
Wine and Crime.
It's like there's a few true crime and wine name titles, but at the end we were like, let's keep it simple. We are just two sisters talking about true crime, and so
Crime and stealing.
Tell us one more time. Oh, Crime and stealing. Tell us one more time what it's called.
Two Sisters and True Crime. You can find us on Instagram, and we'll let you know when we launch. Yeah. Tiffany's not quiet about anything. We've learned. True. So she'll tell you.
Yes. All right. Well, is that anything else about Barbarella? Everybody want to go around and go ahead and give it your 5 stars?
No, I feel like we spent way too much time on Barbarella.
We all know it sucks. So that'll be that. We got plenty of time.
Scott Pilgrim next.
Spot Pilgrim.
Oh, wait.
Spot Pilgrim versus the World in 2 weeks.
Scott, what did you say? Spock?
Yeah, what up?
What your remake?
What was that? What was that bullshit ass movie you saw, Art? Did you remember what that bullshit ass movie you were trying to remember?
What was that?
It had Draco Malfoy in it, and he uttered the words, "Get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape." I want to say,
was it one of the Planet of the Apes remakes?
No. It was
Is Draco Malfoy a character or an actor?
Yes, it's a
character. He's a character played by Tom Felton.
Tom Felton, yeah. Tom Felton.
And he's the one. He's the one that our friend Jessica is weirdly obsessed with, I think.
Oh, Tom Felton. I thought it was Tom Hiddleston.
No, Hiddleston is
Loki.
And then
girls will go.
Oh, this guy played Bane.
That's Tom Hardy, who she is also obsessed with.
She only loves Tom.
This is the Joe verse. This is a Joe verse.
Now I'm Googling his movie because I want to know.
It was Rise of the Planet of the Apes. You was right there.
Okay. So that was the bullshit ass movie.
It was bullshit.
What's this bullshit? I wish I could remember what this bullshit ass movie I was watching was. That's what you sounded like.
Yeah. What's that bullshit ass movie?
Listen.
It's not bullshit movie. It's bullshit ass movie.
Right.
That's what I liked about it.
Well, here's the thing. It's different levels of bullshit.
Of course.
Different levels of bullshit.
Of course.
Now, and some shit's bullshit as fuck. So bullshit ass movie.
Bullshit as fuck.
We're gonna have a whole new dictionary.
That's the title of this episode, Barbarella. Bullshit as fuck.
Bullshit.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Andy,
can I
Andy
type
jumping
that?
in.
Can I type that into the subtitle, or do I have to use asterisks?
I think you're gonna have to use asterisks for
Like B asterisk L S H asterisk T.
no, you can say bull, you have to just do SH asterisk or another thing T. I think that was the rules. I don't know.
I mean, I think
they're
I can
very
put bad words in there. It's just what it won't go out to it, or it'll be hidden or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, podcast listeners.
Don't hate us for Joe's pick, guys. Don't save yourself some
I
time.
apologize.
Don't need to watch Barbarella.
But yeah, we can save you some time.
Yep.
Don't do it.
Barbarella's garbage.
Don't do it.
Garbaggio.
But there might be something to the comics that are worth exploring.
There
Go
you go.
read some of the comics and report back to us.
And that's a might be. None of us have actually read those comics, but that's
Right.
It sounds like there might be something there for it to have.
I
any
would
sort
trust
of
the
enduring thing.
reboot if it's a woman written, woman led thing.
Yeah.
I would trust that. I feel good about saying I trust it. Yes, go watch it, and then in the meantime,
Wait, the reboot comic or reboot movie? Was there a
comic.
reboot comic? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
The
and
movie
they-
wasn't the movie was cut to
Oh, that's right. They cut out the
capture.
movie.
Yeah.
But didn't you say any that are in the works of a new one, like a new version or
they've
something?
they've had several different almost like nothing's ever gone into production, but they've done a lot of attempts. Like there's been a lot of talks of trying to reimagine Barbarella for a modern time with like I think Drew Barrymore was in talks once,
Yeah.
or
She's too busy on her talk show now.
what's her name? I just saw it. And
Fran Drescher.
Yeah, Fran
Yeah,
Drescher.
Tony, the nanny.
Yeah. Lord.
Uh,
Joe.
there was a proposed sequel or a remake or TV series. Who was going to be in it? God dang it!
I wonder if
What's her name? Rose McGowan, I think, was gonna
Is
Oh,
Barb
okay.
Wire at all inspired by Barbarella?
probably,
Yes.
but
Yep.
it's
Could
That's-
one of you guys all go watch it and see if there's any similarities?
No.
TBJ.
Not watching anything that you suggest.
I feel
what?
ever again.
I feel like Art has probably already seen Barb Wire.
He probably has.
If I do, I don't remember that bullshit.
That bullshit ass movie.
It's based on a Dark Horse comic.
Oh my gosh.
Starring Pamela Anderson in 1996.
Who also did, as Andy said earlier, you might have said this on the polo. Was that Stripperella? Did she do was that
Stripperella.
Stripperella
Vampirella.
is different. Stripperella is probably based on Barbarella.
Is that
but,
Pam Anderson too?
It was an animated cartoon series created by Stan Lee for Spike TV.
Oh, I just finished
with-
this book.
With
Fuck,
Pamela
Stan
Anderson
Lee.
as a lead character named Erotica Jones. She's a stripper who is secretly a superhero.
Quick little side note on Stan Lee. My daughter was watching I think the Princess Diaries. And did you know Stan Lee is in that? His cameo. So I'm just walking through, mind you, and she's watching this. I think it's Princess Diaries with Anne
Hathaway.
Hathaway.
Anne Hathaway, right? So she's always watching this crappy princess crap.
That's not
Hey,
crappy.
Princess-
That's a great.
I like-
that's a great.
I like
scene.
the Princess Diary.
Well, Tom
Right.
Poston is in it, so that saved it. But I'm walking through and Stan Lee's in there. I'm like, oh my god, this is a Marvel movie. This isn't the Marvel.
Did you go
universe?
Excelsior?
I did yell Excelsior. I screamed Excelsior in my daughter's face. She said, "Why are you yelling?" And I was like, "That's Stan Lee, and he only has cameos in Marvel movies. This must be a Marvel. This must be a comic." And then I googled it and found out he did that because he's friends with the guy who directed it or whatever. But it's not a Marvel movie. It's not in the MCU. And that movie was bullshit. But Tom Poston was in it. And
The
he
Princess
was
Diaries
also
are
in
actually great movies. Anne Hathaway. I've not seen a movie with Anne Hathaway where I was like, trash. So maybe your taste is off, Joe.
Well, George from Newhart goes on to be whatever he was in that movie, which I saw at the very end. The wedding scene when they're breaking up the wedding, Tom Poston stands up and is like, she doesn't have to get married or whatever. So anyway, thanks for listening Nerd Hive. Anybody else? Andy, got any other dumb bullshit to mansplain?
Yeah, that's what I do. I was trying to see if there's any
Nerd
connection between Barb Wire and Barbarella, but I don't know anything about Barb Wire, but it's a comic book.
Dear listeners, if you've listened to us and got to the end of this episode, God bless you.
Okay, Art,
God
sing us
bless
out.
you.
Sing us out, Art.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Did you just do the Phil Hartman Saturday Night Live sign off? Is that what you just did?
No, he did the Von
know.
Trapp children. That's what
Right.
Like, that's
From
the Von
Family
Trapp.
Guy, though. From Family
Okay.
Guy. But I also want you guys to know I was not drunk this episode.
They say I can't rap about the president no more, but evidently they don't see we in the streets still poor. Still more incarceration of my kinsmen by the prisons, and people thinking this election to end in racism. Proud over pessimism, glad to see Obama, but don't expect me not to speak out when I still see problems.
The Nerd School Podcast.
QueenCityPodcastNetwork.com.
Listen, people can make fun of me for my holiday movies all we want to, but I'm like, are you alive? Did I fuss at you today? Did I yell about anything? All right, then. You're welcome. You better thank Hallmark for keeping me safe.